Well, it was a bit of a process, if you want to know it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So what first happened is that I kept getting challenged while I stayed on for 2 years as a nephrologist in my hospital. So I wasn't kicked out. I left because my soul just couldn't hang out there anymore. And so during that time, even though I was kind of ostracized behind my back, everybody still respected me as a nephrologist, but I still had to go. And in that time, I started doing public appearances. I went on the Gary Null show and started doing things like that, just talking about smallpox and polio, because those were my focus, because everyone's saying, what about smallpox? What about polio? And then when I started finding out, I became obsessed with it. It was so interesting. So I was morbidly fascinated by the whole thing and about how everything I found was absolutely contrary to what the mainstream dogma is. And what I had was a mountain that, pile high to the ceiling, and they had sound bites. They had nothing to fight back with me on, nothing. This guy named Roman Bistrianic heard me on the radio show, and he rung my office. And after his third call, I was like, I guess I better call this guy back. And he had this idea for a book, and he had done all the charts and the graphics and started writing the narrative around that of what the historical documents showed. And then I came in as kind of the medical person that was obsessed with polio and smallpox and happened to know quite a bit about pertussis. So we started writing the book together, and there's got to be, if you were to take a full-time job, 20 years, at least 20 years. But for me, it was condensed because I became obsessed after I quit my job. All I did, I had no money. I lived in a tent with a pop-up camper. That was my office. And I was like crazy Ted Kaczynski, obsessed with polio in my tent. And
wow.
So no, I didn't have apprehension. I was like, this information, it's been the U.S. polio surveillance unit charts were supposed to be available in libraries. Lo and behold, every library I went to find them, I was told they're not here. There's only one library, the AMA library, and you have to have special high security clearance to look at them. Well, I won't say how, but I got a hold of them. And what those documents show is that it wasn't just Cutter Laboratories that had a problem with live polio. It wasn't just Wyeth. All the vaccine, we didn't talk about this, but all the vaccine companies had a problem with live virus in their injectable vaccines during Salk's year. So 1954, 1955, up to 1959, they all were producing vaccine with live virus in it because Salk wouldn't listen to the scientists abroad who were saying his inactivation curve was where the sun doesn't shine. So that beginning of that, and just tracking all that down and asking the questions that you asked, well, where did polio go? What was really causing the paralysis? Why don't we see it today? I had to answer all those questions, and every question I answered, it was so satisfying that I just wanted to go on to the next question. And so there was never any hesitation because